My name is Chris Cogle. I'm a professor of medicine at the University of Florida and chair of the workshop, and I want to give everyone a warm welcome for being here today. On behalf of the National Cancer Policy Forum, I'd like to thank you all for attending this workshop, both of you that are those of you joining in person, as well as those of you joining over the webcast. Before we delve into the workshop, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background of our National Cancer Policy Forum and its work. Next slide, please. The National Cancer Policy Forum provides a continual focus on cancer within the National Academies. And the forum serves as a trusted venue for experts to convene and identify high priority policy issues in cancer research and cancer care. The forum works collaboratively to examine those issues and identify potential opportunities for action. The work of the forum would not be possible without the generous support of the sponsors that are listed here. So this workshop, the clinical application of computational methods in precision oncology, is part of a National Cancer Policy Forum workshop series. The series is examining strategies to improve cancer diagnosis and care. The first workshop, which was held in February 2018, focused on improving patient access to expertise in the diagnosis of oncologic imaging and pathology. And the summary of that workshop is published, actually just recently published, and is available at the back registration table, as well as available online for download. Today's workshop focuses on the use of high-dimensional omics data, computational methods, and clinical infrastructures that are enabling precision oncology care. The workshop has been assembled in collaboration with the Board of Mathematical Sciences and Analytics, and Dr. David Chu, a board member, will be speaking next to provide his perspective on that workshop. I'd like to acknowledge my fellow members of the Workshop Planning Committee. We deeply appreciate the many hours, many volunteer hours in planning this committee and their dedication to developing this workshop program. I want to give a hearty thank you to these members. It's been a true pleasure to work with all of you. And now to give you an interview or an overview of the workshop agenda. The session one will be an overview of what to expect, sort of a high level of the optimism, the pessimism, as well as a summary of the February workshop that Dr. Husek chaired. Then after that overview, we'll be throwing out on the table all of the challenges that are in the way of bringing computers into the clinic and using them responsibly. Session 3 is our data session. So we'll talk about the opportunities as well as the challenges that the data, because omics data are the important inputs to computer interpretation, we wanted to focus on what the data looks like and importantly, what it doesn't look like. Session 4 is our methods section. And so what we'll discuss in session 4 are the statistical, the algorithmic, the heuristic methods that are used by computer platforms to analyze the data. And then session 5 is the clinic infrastructure. So if we're going to translate this technology into the clinic, what does the clinic have to look like in order to receive and translate this data? And then finally, the last section, which will be tomorrow, will be to bring to this table stakeholders. So patient voice, the physician voice, the oncologist voice, the mathematician voice, the data voice, all in one table to then talk about what are the steps forward to get over our challenges, to embrace all these opportunities. So in closing, we value your participation and input into today's workshop. We have microphones that will be set up on the side of the room, and the public is welcome to come up, and I encourage you to ask provocative questions to our speakers, as well as clarifying questions. Note that your questions and the answers will be included as much as possible in the conference proceedings and any publications that we write into the peer-reviewed literature. There will be a time limit on microphone time, and so I'm going to ask the moderators to be able to be in charge of making sure we have everyone at the microphone have a chance to put forward a question. And then a final reminder is that this session will be recorded and will be webcasted. In case you missed something, you'll be able to come back to the web and see the parts that you missed. And so with that, this is your official welcome, and to introduce Dr. David Chu, who's on the board of Mathematical Sciences Analytics. Dr. Chu.
Chris, thank you. Allow me to add my welcome to this conference on behalf of the Board of Mathematical Sciences and Analytics. That board, of course, is interested in encouraging the use of good mathematical statistical tools in public policy endeavors of one sort or another. And obviously, we'd like to know what it can do to be of assistance to your endeavors. Medicine, as members of this audience understand, has long had a strong interest in the employment of quantitative tools, especially those associated with experimentation. I think it is helpful to speak to the tool builders, so to speak, because they provide often a different perspective on the results from the application of the tools that are employed. I was reminded of that at a conference where I was approached by a statistician who remonstrated with me as a federal bureaucrat why the feds would accept the lowest bid on a contract. Because from the statistician's perspective, the lowest bid is sent by someone who doesn't understand what he's doing, and therefore might not be the source you wish to select. It's heartening that the papers in this conference go beyond testing for differential results to employ new techniques about prediction, artificial intelligence, etc. I know there's a great deal of enthusiasm for machine learning. Mathematicians, I understand, however, are frustrated because they can't demonstrate that machine learning really does produce the best result. We know empirically it often does produce good results, but it's difficult analytically to show why that is the case. And of course, machine learning raises this whole question of data management. The training data are very important to what kind of results you're going to produce with your tool, and it is indeed encouraging that there is a whole session here on data management issues of one sort or another. I recognize that some in the medical profession have been critical of the precision oncology literature, arguing that the genomic data, in fact, is often not properly calibrated, cleaned up, prepared, and we may therefore be getting misleading results out of some of the studies that are undertaken. In that regard, I think it's also encouraging that there's a series of papers here of what you might call the behavioral elements in precision oncology, papers on bias and inequities, papers on communications challenges, a session on health insurance, which of course opens the door on all the tools that social scientists like to use for their work, including tools that help you understand the structure of relationships, not just prediction, but understanding why things are related in the way that they are. Perhaps less important in oncology than some other medical lines of endeavor. Nonetheless, I do think it is critical to keep in mind how the patients react to the treatments and the outcomes that are achieved or not achieved, as the case might be. And that, of course, involves the use of survey tools and tools to analyze survey results. I had the privilege, for personal reasons, of reading some literature on osteogenesis imperfecta, brittle bone disease. And what's interesting about that literature, as far as patient-reported outcomes are concerned, is that what the clinicians worried about and what the patients thought were important were not the same. The aspects of the affliction that the patients worried about were ones to which the physicians were paying somewhat less attention. There's also the story, at least some argue, behind the Department of Defense breast cancer research program. You may recall this having been started by Representative Ferraro some years ago, who added extra money in defense authorization bill for breast cancer research. The Department of Defense ran the program, and that program has emphasized patient-reported outcomes from a very early stage, and has therefore produced a somewhat different approach and that disease and enthusiasm in the patient population. The bottom line is, my plea is to ask you to tell us on the board on Mathematical Sciences Analytics how we can help you. Can we better explicate how some of these tools might be employed? Can we do a better job of pointing out the pitfalls in the use of various tools? Very simple pitfall was discovered by the RAND health insurance experiment in 1970. Some of you recall this incident. RAND, as you know, was chartered to test out different health insurance schemes. President Nixon thought we were going to have national health insurance. He was not quite right about that, but so he commissioned a large experiment to test various health insurance regimes. As part of that test, the organizers wanted to have pre-coverage health indicators. And so they gave over 100 different clinical tests, not thinking about what was going to happen. Given the cutoff level selected, they would have 5 or 6 typically adverse results in the tests. And the ethical question became, what are you going to do about this? They had not thought about this problem in advance because they had not sort of mechanically applied the statistical cutoff paradigm. The answer, by the way, was, we send them to your doctor, you go see him or her, and they'll tell you what to do. Because, of course, they were worried that if they just gave the patients the test results, they would spike the use of health services at the very beginning of the test. Of course, the bottom line question beyond using existing tools is what new tools, what new ways to analyze and wring discoveries from data would you like to see explored by the board in what it does? There's a small pamphlet outside that says a few words about what this board does. It's reproduced in part in your program. But the bottom line is our board is, we hope, here to help and looks forward to your feedback and your suggestions of how we can be more useful to you and to your endeavors. Thank you.